Welcome to the Smart Reactors podcast, your go-to source for cutting-edge insights into medical device coating innovation. My name is Gillian and I'm your host. And as we spoke about in the last introductory video, the first episode of the podcast series will be discussing the current and the future trends in medical device coatings. I'm joined today by the CTO of Smart Reactors, Mark Brassil. Thank you so much for joining us, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Gillian.
So to kick things off in today's podcast, Mark, I suppose could you tell us what medical device coatings are and what they mean in today's industry?
Yeah, well, medical device coatings, they're very varied. You know, this is anything from an antimicrobial paint in a hospital to a hydrophilic coating on the catheter to a heparin coating on the device. So it's, you know, they're very varied, and really what they do is, by modifying the surface of a device, you can change the functionality, you can bring new properties without really changing a lot of the mechanical properties of your device.
Wow, okay. And do you think coatings have evolved much over the last decade or so?
Well, they have, and you know, a decade isn't a long time for implant type devices, but they have. Yeah, we're seeing multifunctional coatings come through, so something that may be antimicrobial and lubricious, or maybe antithrombogenic, but kind of promote endothelialization and healing within the body. So yeah, multifunctional coatings are becoming the norm.
Wow. And do you think regulatory requirements influence maybe the development or the adoption of a new coating technology in any way?
They do, for sure. I mean, there is a trend away from drug coatings unless they're absolutely needed for an application, because the regulatory burden is much higher than, say, coatings that are passive or drug-free. So you have to really understand your regulatory pathway, the testing you need to show, and kind of work backwards from there while you're selecting a coating.
Yeah, and I know a collaboration is probably really important with medtech innovators. So I suppose how important, in your opinion, is the association between medtech innovators, engineers, regulators all together to develop a coating?
Well, you have to understand what your regulators need and work back from that. So, you know, if they need to see particular aging temperatures or multiple lots of material so that they're happy that the coating doesn't bring any new risks, you have to understand that and you have to build that into your development project plan. So you've got to start at the end, what do people need to see, and work back from that to create your plan.
Absolutely. And I suppose patient safety is a number one priority for a lot of medtech companies out there at the moment. Do coatings play a role maybe in device infection or device failure or anything like that?
Absolutely, and it depends on the device. So, you know, a lot of our minimally invasive procedures and our catheters, they simply wouldn't work without lubricious coatings on the outside of them. You wouldn't be able to reach the target anatomies. Other devices like oxygenators and perfusion systems, you know, it's known that they will fail if you don't have an antithrombogenic coating on the surface. So absolutely, yeah, you know, and you have to understand what are the risks to your patient of having the coating and what are the risks of not having a coating.
Absolutely. And do you think coatings maybe extend the lifespan of a particular device?
Well, they do. I gave the example of ECMO perfusion.
Yes.
You know, those extracorporeal circuits will absolutely fail over time. I mean, clotting is a progressive kind of issue with them. So if you don't have a coating, your indications and the amount of time you can use that device for will be limited.
Wow. And I suppose in the market at the moment, there's probably a lot of pros and cons. In your opinion, where do you see the biggest gap in the market between, I suppose, the coatings that are in the lab at the moment, they're being made, they're whatever, into, I suppose, coatings that are used for clinical use?
Probably the biggest gap is data. You know, that you may have a very good coating in the lab, but you still need to generate a lot of biocompatibility data, a lot of preclinical data, and then to translate that into patients. You know, there's certainly a lot of unmet medical needs, and while you have a palette of coatings that exist today, that they may not be the right coatings to satisfy the new device designs that are coming through.
Do you think cost considerations or scalability challenges maybe impact what coating is in the lab and then makes it to clinical use?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you're going for a high volume device, you need a coating process it has to be quick, it has to be inexpensive, it has to work for your manufacturing process. Other devices, maybe more high margin, more specialized, you can have a process that may not be quite as scalable, but it still has to meet a price point that works for your end device.
Absolutely. And I know that Smart Reactors is a coating technology company. Could you tell us a little bit about, I suppose, where the idea stemmed from?
Yeah, well, yeah. So we were looking at a coating that reduces the risk of blood clotting on implantable devices, and also improves the rate at which that device will heal into the tissue. You know, with a coating that will allow cells to attach and adhere and cover the device. So a multifunctional coating.
And I suppose in the future, do you think we'll see a little bit more personalisation with coatings, maybe tailored to patient-specific needs?
I'd have to say far in the future if we do. We're at a point where there are some devices that are kind of patient specific or tailored to particular anatomy. Intravascular grafts is one, but I don't think we're seeing coatings tailored to patients just yet.
And I suppose then AI as well is a hot topic across a lot of industries right now. Do you think maybe AI will play a role in the future in the design or development of a coating or even testing?
Yeah, we watch it. It's hard to say for sure. We've seen very interesting work done on AI for development of adhesives and polymer design, but I'm not sure that we have the information yet on the biological interaction with coatings to allow AI to design ones that are better than the current coatings that are on the market. It's a space.
Yes, I can imagine. I suppose then if I was an R&D engineer developing a new device and I was looking for a coating, what should I look from a coating company?
Well, I'd look. What do I look for in a coating first? I guess I'd look at what are the risks with my device if I don't have a coating, and what are the risks if I apply a coating, and I would look then to pick what is the best coating to meet my clinical needs. After that, you're going to have to look for a coating partner that I guess understands your clinical needs, understands your device, has a process that they can apply, and can support you during the regulatory journey to get that tested and get that to market.
And do coated devices then typically require a higher ASP, average selling price, than your uncoated devices?
Well, they will do. I mean, look, there's no way about it. You're adding a cost if you're putting on a coating, but it allows you to have different indications for your device, carve out different niches and within the market. So yeah, it will allow you to command a higher average selling price.
And I understand as well that Smart Reactors are exhibiting at MedTech Galway, which is very exciting, taking place next week. What are you most looking forward to getting out from MedTech?
Just a few good conversations, I guess. So to meet people that are developing new devices, maybe have or anticipate challenges with the interaction of their device with the body, and to take it from there.
Perfect. And finally as well, Mark, just on the last question I have for you, do you think there's any resources or publications that could tell us a little bit more about coatings, I suppose? Anything you'd recommend?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of resources, and you have to use all of them. There isn't a single place you can go to learn everything. So you've got to go online, you've got to look at the published literature, you've got to look at the patent literature, you've got to go to trade shows, you've got to network and talk with people.
Absolutely. A lot of networking.
You've got to go broad.
Yeah, that's it. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Mark, on the podcast. We found your insights really valuable and inspiring. If you'd like to find out more about Smart Reactors, you can contact us at www.smartreactors.com. You can stay tuned for next week's episode, where we will be discussing the differences between hydrophilic and hemocompatible coatings. Also, you could join us at Stand 96 at MedTech Galway, taking place at the Galway Racecourse on the 24th and 25th of September.